हेलो डियर स्टूडेंट्स, इस वीडियो में हम पढ़ेंगे अबाउट नाइट्रोजन फिक्सेशन। As we know that plants require many essential elements. इन एसेंशियल एलिमेंट्स में अगर आप देखोगे सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरत पड़ती है कार्बन की, हाइड्रोजन की एंड ऑक्सीजन की। Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, they are required for normal growth and development of plants in large quantities. But after these three essential elements, nitrogen is the most abundant element which is required in large quantities for their normal growth and development for plants. अगर प्लांट्स को बहुत सारे एसेंशियल एलिमेंट्स की ज़रूरत है, यूजुअली हम देखते हैं कि 17 एसेंशियल एलिमेंट्स है। उनमें सबसे ज़्यादा कार्बन की ज़रूरत है, ऑक्सीजन की ज़रूरत है, और हाइड्रोजन की ज़रूरत है, ऑक्सीजन की ज़रूरत है। लेकिन इन तीनों के अलावा जो प्लांट्स में सबसे ज़्यादा चाहिए वो है नाइट्रोजन। अब ये नाइट्रोजन प्लांट कहाँ से खाता है? इट इज़ प्रेजेंट इन एटमॉस्फेयर। नाइट्रोजन इज़ प्रेजेंट इन एटमॉस्फेयर इन द फॉर्म ऑफ नाइट्रोजन गैस। नाइट्रोजन गैस, ऐसे भी हम लिखते हैं डाई नाइट्रोजन मॉलिक्यूल, डाई नाइट्रोजन मॉलिक्यूल। अब इस डाई नाइट्रोजन को अगर हम ऐसे भी दिखाएंगे तो ये भी ठीक रहेगा। देयर इज अ ट्रिपल बॉन्ड प्रेजेंट बिटवीन टू नाइट्रोजन एटम्स इन अ नाइट्रोजन मॉलिक्यूल। दिस नाइट्रोजन, डाई नाइट्रोजन, दैट इज नाइट्रोजन मॉलिक्यूल, इट इज वेरी इनर्ट एंड इज नॉट यूटिलाइज्ड बाय प्लांट्स। प्लांट्स do not utilize this type of nitrogen. अगर एटमॉस्फेयर में हम देखेंगे 78% नाइट्रोजन है बाय इट्स परसेंटेज, लेकिन प्लांट्स ये फॉर्म नाइट्रोजन की इस्तेमाल नहीं करते हैं। अब प्लांट्स कहाँ से नाइट्रोजन खाते हैं? प्लांट्स टेक नाइट्रोजन फ्रॉम द सॉइल थ्रू दियर रूट्स। लेकिन किस फॉर्म में? दैट फॉर्म इज नोन एज नाइट्रेट फॉर्म। नाइट्रेट फॉर्म और नाइट्राइट फॉर्म। ये हो गया नाइट्रेट, ये हो गया नाइट्राइट, NO3। नाइट्राइट फॉर्म में प्लांट्स ज़्यादा खाते हैं नाइट्रोजन फ्रॉम द सॉइल एंड समटाइम्स आल्सो इन नाइट्राइट, मेनली इन द फॉर्म ऑफ नाइट्रेट। याद रखना, नाइट्रेट इज द मेन फॉर्म विच इज एब्जॉर्ब्ड बाय द प्लांट्स थ्रू दियर रूट्स फ्रॉम द सॉइल। अब इस नाइट्रोजन में एक इम्पॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है, जो एटमॉस्फेयर में नाइट्रोजन होता है नाइट्रोजन गैस, it is changed into the NH3. The change of atmospheric nitrogen gas into the NH3 is usually known as nitrogen fixation. नाइट्रोजन फिक्सेशन। नाइट्रोजन जो एटमॉस्फेयर में होता है, इट इज रिड्यूस्ड इनटू द अमोनिया, and this reduction of nitrogen into the ammonia is usually known as a nitrogen fixation. And this nitrogen fixation requires the molecules which will provide hydrogen for its reduction. Now this nitrogen fixation, that is conversion of N2 gas into NH3, that is nitrogen fixation, it has two main types. First one is biological, biological, and second one is biological. What does abiological means? It means the conversion of, that is the nitrogen fixation where living organism is not involved. And how it takes place? It takes place by two important phenomena. First one is the natural, which occurs by lightning in the atmosphere, and second one of abiological is the nitrogen fixation, which is carried out in the chemical fertilizer plants during the formation of fertilizers. That means the industries which are associated, which are involved in the synthesis of fertilizers, also carry out nitrogen fixation by a process. That process is a very well-known process known as Haber-Bosch process, where high temperature, about 300 degrees centigrade to 400 degrees centigrade, and high pressure is maintained simultaneously. That means in a chemical fertilizer plant where fertilizers are synthesized by converting atmospheric nitrogen gas and by reducing that, and that requires a high temperature and high pressure, a process known as Haber-Bosch process. These are the two important aspects of the biological nitrogen fixation, which is carried out by without the involvement of living organism, and occurs either by naturally, which is carried by lightnings, which occurs during the rains and in the atmosphere, and second one is the reaction which occurs in the chemical fertilizer plants and is carried out by the humans by a process known as Haber-Bosch process. But the most important phenomena of associated with the nitrogen fixation is the biological nitrogen fixation. Biological nitrogen fixation. Here you will see that it is carried out by living organisms. The nitrogen fixation which is carried out by living organisms is known as biological nitrogen fixation, and it accounts about 60% of the total nitrogen fixation. 60% of the total nitrogen fixation which occurs on the earth is carried out by living organisms. And what are the living organisms which are associated with this biological nitrogen fixation? Those are known as diazotrophs, and these are bacteria and cyanobacteria. The potential of carrying nitrogen fixation is limited, is restricted to bacteria and cyanobacteria only. Remember this thing, It is not the property of all living organisms to carry out nitrogen fixation. It is the property of only bacteria and cyanobacteria which can carry out this nitrogen fixation. What is important with respect to biological nitrogen fixation? That these nitrogen fixing bacteria and cyanobacteria contain an important enzyme known as nitrogenase. This is an important enzyme which carries out the reduction of nitrogen, into ammonia, that is nitrogen fixation. This is very important enzyme regarding nitrogen fixation, and it is present in some of the prokaryotic organisms. Among these, bacteria and cyanobacteria. Some bacteria and some cyanobacteria contain this enzyme nitrogenase, which carries out the conversion of nitrogen into ammonia. And this is something about nitrogen fixation. In next video, I am going to deliver a lecture only on biological nitrogen fixation. That will be studied in detail. Biological nitrogen fixation. One thing I will mention here, that is, it is second most reaction. It is second most important reaction on earth after photosynthesis. फोटोसिंथेसिस के बाद जो मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट रिएक्शन अर्थ पे है, दैट इज नाइट्रोजन फिक्सेशन. थैंक यू फॉर दिस वीडियो.